Welcome to Tentative Training 101, which I'll describe the basics of a helicopter and the basics of control, and show you how some people come to flying and how you can improve your flight. Just as background, I'm using a HOTAS, that's throttle and joystick, and I also have track IR enabled. However you do need that, with the standard ARMA flight model, you can fly a helicopter using keyboard and mouse, or using a joystick and keyboard. As you see in front of us, we've got the MH6, which is configured to carry a pilot, co-pilot, and 6 passengers, usually special operations infantry. 2 are carried internally at the rear, and 2 on each bench. Looking at the helicopter, there are 3 main important parts. One is the crew compartment, where the pilot and co-pilot sit. They have what look like standard controls of a joystick and pedals. However, that is misleading. You've got the passenger compartment and the bench. Above that you have the main rotor with 5 rotor blades. Once the rotor blades are spinning, it is called a rotor disk, and that both lifts and propels the helicopter. At the rear of the helicopter, you have what you might call the tail rotor, but is more properly called the anti-torque rotor. And why have an anti-torque rotor? Well, when the helicopter is on the ground and the main rotor disc is spinning, everything is fine. But the minute you take off, you are no longer held in position by friction with the ground. The body of the helicopter will try and spin in the opposite direction to the rotor blades. So at that point, the tail rotor, or anti-torque rotor, comes into effect. What that does, it pushes out a column of air at right angles to the airframe, which allows you to steer the nose of the airframe right and left, and under the simple ARMA flight model, it doesn't need any more correction. If you ever transition to the advanced flight model, you will need to constantly put input as you change power to the rotors and change collective. Otherwise you will wiggle and waggle all over the area. Right, let's just walk around. What we have here is another view of the helo. Again, it's very simple. You've got in this helicopter, you have flight instruments in the central binnacle, and you have the flight controls, which are mirrored either side for pilot and co-pilot. Okay, let's go on and get in, he said. I'll just move around to the other side of the airframe. Just before I get in, let's have a quick look. Here you see the pedals, and they're there on both sides of the aircraft. And if you've been flying fixed wing, you will think, they're the rudder. No, they're not. Please, although they can have an effect similar to a rudder, they work in a completely different manner. Also, the joystick isn't a joystick. It's properly called a Cyclic, and if you're playing with a HOTAS, it's usually mapped onto your joystick. So it does the same effect as a joystick and aircraft, but the way it does it is completely different. And thirdly, you have this weird thing here, which sticks up, and what that is the collective. The collective has 2 main controls on it. In ARMA standard model, you won't need to worry about what they are. They'll be integrated into one. One thing the collective does, it changes the angle of attack of the rotor blades, which means it will either bite into the air harder or easier. This is what gives you actual lift. The more of the angle, the more air that's pushed downwards, and the faster you can go up. At the same time, you'll also have a throttle control on there in a real helicopter, So as you increase collective to go up, you'll also be increasing the revolutions of the engine to maintain power. Right, let's get in and I'll have a quick discussion of what the items do. Okay, if you look around, there are some instruments which are important. The artificial horizon and your compass. If you have time to look, you've got a vertical speed indicator showing how fast you're going up and down. You have a repeater compass there. And the main thing is, the reason I've chosen the MH6 for this initial demonstration is that it is very small, very nimble, and very easy to see what's going on around you. And you can see the benefit I have with Track IR. I can easily look around up and down. However, you can get the same effect with a joystick by mapping one of the top hat controls in the ARMA controls to the view controls. And there are view controls on your keyboard which will allow you to snap left and right, up and down. Right. Cyclic and collective. Confusing terms. I mentioned that the joystick isn't a joystick. What it is, it's called the cyclic, and it controls the aspect of the rotor disc by moving a mechanical swash plate. And what that does is it allows you to tilt the disc as it spins, forwards and backwards, left and right, with a 360 degree of control. Unlike fixed-wing aircraft, which only fly in one direction because they rely on the wing shape to give lift, the helicopter gets lift from its rotors, which are shaped like mini wings. So a helicopter doesn't care whether it's flying forwards or backwards, left or right. All you're doing is changing the input to the cyclic. A little hard to understand, but if you imagine holding a walking stick in your hand, if you hold the walking stick at the top between your finger and thumb, it will hang down vertically and be very easy to maneuver left, right and forward and back. And the reason you can't fly upside down in helicopters, with the same walking stick, try balancing it on your fingertip, and you'll see it's very hard to maintain the centre of balance underneath the mass of the walking stick. Same thing with a helicopter. Basically, everything except the rotor disc hangs down freely beneath the rotor disc. So if you try to fly upside down, you're actually trying to balance all of the weight of the helicopter on the centre of the rotor disc, and that's a very unstable position. Flying right side up is reasonably stable. Unfortunately, helicopters, when you're not flying standard model in ARMA, will try and kill you. They really are not inherently stable. But that was collective. That changes the attitude of the rotor disc, tipping it forward or back, left or right. Then you have the collective. As I said, the collective will change the attitude or angle of attack of each rotor blade, so that it will either dig into the air harder or lesser. The more it digs into the air, the more you ought to go up, and the less it digs into the air and the slower the RPM, the more your airframe will want to come down. Right, let's just start the motor. Now, you can start your engine by using the scroll wheel, and you can select engine on. I'm not actually going to do that, because I have my engine start linked to my throttle, so we'll power up. Now, don't try and take off immediately. You'll notice a different engine note once the helicopter has a stable rotor disc. You'll also notice you can't really see the individual blades anymore. Now, a lot of people come to helicopter flying in ARMA by going onto a public server and grabbing a spare helicopter. And the first thing they do when they try and take off is crash. The second thing they do is they learn how to turn on the auto hover. Now, this does mean that a complete newbie can fly a helicopter in a manner of speaking. You turn on the auto hover, and you increase your collective, And there we go up. And what will happen then, with most newbies, is they'll think, okay, I'm high enough now, so I'll turn the auto hover off, and I'll tip myself forward, and I'll lose height and speed up. If you want to speed up without losing height, you increase your thrust at the same time as collective. You increase collective and you'll increase RPM, and you'll stay at the same height. And we're flying a straight line. Now I can use my rudder control. I know I call it rudder. I can use my anti-torque motor controls and turn the nose left. Only one problem, it doesn't, as we're going quite fast, I'll slow down. That's better described at a slower speed. So I just turn the helicopter around at a slower speed, and then I'll describe what I'm doing to give you some idea of the complexity and the fun. So we'll do 120 miles straight forward, holding roughly the same height, and I'll input my anti-torque, and the airframe turns left, and we keep going forward. And then on 0, I can put in right, and it will turn to the right, and we will still keep going forward in a straight line. Unlike a fixed wing, the anti-torque rotor does not turn the helicopter as such, it turns the nose aspect of the helicopter. So, how do we turn? Remember I said the helicopter doesn't care which way it's flying? If I put a left slide in, I will slide left, and if I put some anti-torque in, I can rotate in a nice, smooth left-hand turn. Same thing goes, if I level up, torque to the right, and input some right anti-torque, I will describe a nice lazy S-turn. Okay, let's gain a little bit of height, and we'll go into the controls in a bit more detail. So, if I tilt the nose down, rotor disk goes down, we start to accelerate. I can pull the nose up, we will gain height, and slow down. I can stabilise that off. I'm just going to cheat and put in auto hover for a second. And you'll see that the nose pitches up radically and we go up in the air. One reason why newbies flying auto hover get a bad rep, because you fly up in the air, you're a big target for anyone who wants to shoot you. Turn that off. So with the rudder, anti-torque pedals, now I've got no forward movement to centre me, I can rotate the helicopter all the way round. And that works equally well going the other way. I'm drifting slightly forward, so it's full that speed. Now, as I'm roughly stable, I can now tilt left, and I'm not going forward at all. I'm actually drifting to the right, because I've tilted to the right, and that would continue. Drift left or right would continue until I correct it. So I will drift left now. Let's just kill the forward speed. So roughly at 25 kph, I'll drift left, and you'll see that I will continue to drift left until I input a correction. So the main controls are your collective, which controls the speed you go up and down, and the amount of fight that goes into the air, and your cyclic, which controls forward and back, right and left. Okay, that basically covers the main controls of the helicopter. Now, going back to that infamous newbie who wants to land on a public server, he's flying along, and he thinks, oh, there's an airfield, I can land on the airfield. So he levels up, and he thinks, I'll go and land. So I'll pop into auto hover, and watch the height and speed. Height zooms up, speed zooms down. Then he'll think, okay, now I'm stable, I'll reduce my collective, and I can land, because this isn't really much good if you're on a public server or in combat, because people will be shooting at you all the time, and your passengers will be calling you all sorts of nasty movie names. Turn off auto armor. So, what you can do is get the same effect. You choose where you're going to land, you reduce collective to reduce height, at the same time you pull your Cyclic back to bring the nose up, and you'll get lower and lower. And you make fine adjustments with your Cyclic. And there we are. Landed. Of course it doesn't have to be that slow. Let's try and land by the hangar. Won't guarantee I will, because I can't even see it, and there it is. Cut my collective, choose my landing point, keep an eye on the landing point, and drift in at 75 kph. Slow down for the last part, and it's all juggling with your speed, your collective, and your attitude. And there we are. Down without a problem. Okay, we'll turn the engine off, and we'll just go over what I've said. So, looking down, you have Cyclic, which controls which way your rotor disk is spinning. Well, it always spins in one direction, but it means you can change the which way the air column is forced. On my left hand side, I have collective. If I pull it up, I will go up. If I push it down, I will go down. And in front of me, I have my so-called rudder pedals, which are actually controlling the anti-torque rotor. And those are the only three controls you need to know about the Hilo. And good luck and good flying. Thanks for watching this video. If you find it of any help or interest, please leave a like or subscribe, or share the video link with your friends. And this is Urtzi, the